Hello, everyone. It is Friday and it is time for the Cannabis Events Talk Show. I'm your host, Adelia Carrillo, and this series is brought to you by eventhi. A little bit about the Cannabis Events Talk Show for those that are unfamiliar. The Cannabis Events Talk Show covers all about cannabis events, experiences, and tourism. We keep you updated on the hottest topics from current news, trends, interviews with guests to marketing tips, and so much more. How this series goes is we're going to bring on the guest in just a few moments. We'll do an interview kind of segment. Then the guest and I will go over a couple different industry news articles that happened this week. And then after that, I'm just going to share some of our latest updates, announcements, and then that'll be the end of the show. So if you're tuning in from Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, drop us a comment, say where you're streaming from. Feel free to ask questions and just join the conversation. So with that being said, I am so honored to introduce you to this week's co-host, especially because I know her and I consider her a friend, and she's just doing amazing things out there. Rachelle Gordon. She is a freelance cannabis and psychedelics journalist and copywriter. She has been featured in several leading outlets, including High Times, Beard Bros, Cannabis Now, and Skunk. So with that being said, let's bring her on. Hello, how are you?
I'm great, Adelia. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. I'm just excited to have you here. I shared a little bit of a snippet about you, but please tell a little bit more to our guests, a little bit about your backstory and, how you started writing for cannabis and psychedelics.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be so much fun. I've been looking forward to it all week. So, yeah, I got into the legal cannabis industry in 2016. I actually have an education background, but I had to stop teaching in 2011 after I was arrested for cannabis possession. And as I dealt with that, I started doing writing more of as a side hustle, doing SEO content, web content. And then as the legal industry started happening, I started finding more gigs in that side. My court case was dismissed, so I could move on with my life. But at that point in time, I was sort of all in to content writing. And then a lot of right place, right time sort of stuff got me really, really dedicated to the industry by about 2017. And then since then, I've been able to travel all over North America, going to different cannabis events and parties and seeing different markets evolve and new ones come online and develop my network and be a contributor to so many amazing outlets. And it's just been really incredible.
You definitely are staying busy. I was just sharing with you, being from California, and I just moved to Arizona. We in California, no offense to us, but we can be in a cannabis bubble over there. So you get to really experience all the different markets and just see the differences. And I think that brings a lot of value for you, even being able to go there, because you can share also what you've learned throughout all these different states and living in California and whatnot. But you're from Minnesota as well, right?
Well, Wisconsin originally, but same difference. But I moved to the Twin Cities in 2008, and I've been going back and forth from Minneapolis to Oakland, California, which is where I am right now, for about the last 3 years. And you really do get the best of both worlds. But you're absolutely right. It's a very strange dichotomy to go from California, which is such a mature market, back to Minnesota, where they have a medical program barely and decrim, but it's very, very different.
Yeah, for sure. Tony from Chicago is joining us. He says hello.
Hey,
Um,
Tony.
so, you and I'm not just saying this because I know you, but you really are a talented journalist and copywriter, and I'm sure, your talent has connected you to many different experiences. As you stated, you've gone to different cannabis events all over. What has been one of your favorite events or experiences that you have experienced or, attended?
Really great question. There's just so many. I would have to say, the Emerald Cup is always a fantastic time. There's such legends and what they've been doing in the community for going on 20 years now has been just really, really remarkable. I know they've now changed their structure a little bit. So they have their harvest ball, which I bumped into you, which was awesome at the end of last year. And now they'll be having their award ceremony in LA with Green Street Fest in May, which I'm really excited to see that. The Green Street Fest, I think, is going to be really, really fun and something that's going to have a lot of staying power. But the Emerald Cup really brings the community together, which I just love, and it's relaxed. And it's just about the plant and the people surrounding it, which is so, so fun. I would also have to say that I really love to see Hall of Flowers come up in California. It's so interesting to be able to sample product and interact with the brands in a way that we weren't really able to before, with the Emerald Cup kind of being the exception to that. So for California events, for sure, those are some of my absolute, absolute favorites.
Yeah. I definitely agree. The Emerald Cup, if you haven't experienced it, you have to experience it. I know it's going to be different. It'll be a different kind of experience in LA, but you're right. I'm excited to see, just how the community is coming together with this kind of collaboration with Green Street. It's the Green Fest or Green Street Fest? I know it's from Green Street, but what are they calling it? The
Green Street Fest.
Okay. So it is Green Street Fest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm going to make plans to attend that one for sure. It'll be really cool to see that collaboration. I agree. I haven't experienced the Hall of Flowers. I've just experienced, listened to everybody's. Yeah, even though I was in California, I never went. So I'm hoping this year I'll experience what you guys have experienced. A bunch of good stuff.
You would love it. You would love it. The activations are really next level. It's really, really something to see. And the caliber of the speakers is really fantastic. And yeah, it really brings the community out in a fun way. So yeah, I really hope to see you there. I mean, Palm Springs isn't too far, right?
Not at all. Oh, Jamie just joined. Hi, Jamie.
Hey, Jamie. Hey, girl.
And Tony just put up the website. Mia Jane said the Emerald Cup is her favorite too. She loves that one.
Definitely.
Yeah. And Jackson, thanks for joining us. He says he's 45 minutes from Minneapolis.
Oh, right on. Hometown shout out.
So from your experience, you get to see behind the scenes from the event kind of host perspective, but also from the attendees perspective. As a journalist, I'm sure you get all the hidden areas to go and check out. What is one piece of advice you would like to share with event organizers out there creating cannabis events for the community?
So I was thinking about that question a little bit in our preparations, and the first thing that came to mind, and it's kind of silly, and I'll have another suggestion as well. But the first one is just have enough water. That is always an issue, it seems. There's just not enough water, or the water stations aren't working. I mean, not every event has that problem, but I've noticed that it can be an issue. So have water, make it free, have plenty of it, have it easily accessible. That's the one thing I want to say. Second of all, I would say that just having a really well-rounded panel of speakers is also so important, because people are taking their time and their money to come to the event. And while it's always fun to network and see each other, you want to make sure that the information that you're providing is diverse so that you can reach enough people who would be interested in that, right? You can't make it all about cultivation, all about extraction, unless that's, a niche event that you're having. You want to make sure that you have a wide range of topics that people would be interested in and can get value out of. I think that's important.
Yeah. I mean, I know the water one is not a silly one though. You have valid reason to ask, because I've experienced that too. And, especially if there's consumption there, you want to keep people hydrated.
Yes, exactly. I don't know how many times I've said, wow, there's literally no just plain water. There were always plenty of CBD beverages or whatever, but it's can I just have some still water? That'd be great.
So the panels and the water event organizers out there.
I don't think it's too much to ask, because there's plenty of people who are willing to share their information and share their knowledge too. And I know that people are really, really excited to share their passion and their knowledge. So get more people out there speaking.
That's so true. Yeah. And especially now, everybody's ready to go out. Everybody's ready to go out. People do want to learn and hear from these individuals. And those guests or those speakers that you're bringing on do bring a different audience, because they're going to promote the event too. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Exactly.
Now, what tips, this is another tip for event organizers. What tips do you have for event organizers when they're looking to invite journalists to attend and cover their event? And then the second part of that, does an invite mean their event will get covered? Like, how does that whole work, that whole process?
That's a super great question. I know for myself that, we try really, really hard if we're attending an event to put the work in, to do coverage. Most of the time, a pitch would be involved. So typically, if I'm trying to apply for a press pass for an event, the scope of the work would be outlined there, and you would hopefully already have a pitch in that was accepted by an outlet. Other times when shows reach out to me, they have to understand that while my attendance, I would love to come out, I can't guarantee that a pitch will be accepted. So sometimes if they want to, make it contingent upon that, the press pass, that's one thing. Or if they want to kind of see how it goes, because most of the cannabis journalists are pretty well connected. We have a really tight network and can usually speak to one another. Maybe if an outlet that we're working with at the moment, if none of them feel right, maybe we can reach out to a friend in their network and say, hey, is so-and-so accepting pitches for this type of content? There's usually a way to make it happen. I also would like to say that there is something to be said for the power of social media. So people who are attending these events, are definitely likely to post. So I think that remembering that journalists can engage with their audience in multiple types of ways is something to keep in mind, just in case, a story doesn't pan out the way that maybe someone had intended. Because also, we're at the mercy of our editors. So if a story gets killed, for example, after the fact, that's sort of out of our control. And you would hope that you can maybe pitch it somewhere else and that there'd be flexibility on both sides there. And I think most people understand that.
Yeah. Yeah, those are valid points. Yeah, that's great to understand how it works too from your perspective as being on the journalist side of things. So we're going back really quick. Sergio said, which is a great tip. He did state the bottled water is also a great opportunity to provide branding or sponsorship opportunity. So definitely, there's no reason to not have water. It can even be branded.
All the water in the world. And I see that more places are starting to allow like the water stations to be part of a sponsorship package. And he's absolutely right. Like that is a great way to reach folks, beyond just the putting your name on the flyer, for sure.
So true. Now, a couple more questions before we move into the article component. Why, with all the events you've been able to see and going to these different states, why do you think events are important for the industry?
We're just such a heavily networked industry in general. We're all about community, right? I mean, especially when you go back to the cannabis plant, it's a ritual for so many people. We all have such fond memories, I'm sure, of just sitting in a sesh. That's what it all boils down to. And so I think for the cannabis industry specifically, we really have a yearning to be together in person. And I know that people were so thrilled to be able to, get together again after COVID. And I know, we're still not out of the weeds there yet, but we're working on it. And I think that just like that sense of community, that sense of purpose is so much more important. Plus, we're evolving so quickly and knowledge is constantly changing. More information, more data, more research is coming out all the time. So it seems like there's always something to talk about and something to learn about. So I think for cannabis, we really need to get together to share that information and to share that passion to sort of reset the batteries as well. Events are a lot of work. They're exhausting, as you know. I think that sometimes people forget that even though, we're having a fabulous time, it's exhausting, right? And so, but it's always a great way to reconnect with the community, and kind of, I almost say that even though it's exhausting, you kind of are recharging your batteries in a little bit of way, like with the fam. And then you can recharge your batteries physically after the event once you can take your shoes off and relax.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a variety of ways, and as you're describing that, I think back to Emerald Cup. And, what I love about the Emerald Cup is when you're walking around, you can be in one of the halls and, they always have those lounge areas and you just see everybody at their tables just showing off their own flower that they've grown or whatever they just bought. It is that part of that ritual where it's like, look at my goodies, like, look what I got, or look what I grew, and I love that part. I love just watching people watching to see how they communicate and connect with each other there. It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something that will never cease to exist, hopefully, as long as the regulators, which I know they were flexing a little bit, I guess, in the
Yeah.
past, but I think as long as people are just, doing their due diligence and not getting too crazy, it'll be okay. But yeah, I love being able to trade bud with people at shows and just, it feels like old times.
It does, for sure. So Renee is joining us from San Diego. She's representing ArcView Events and Experiences. Hi, Renee. Thanks for
Hey,
joining.
Ray.
um, now, what do you have in store for 2022 or currently? What do you got? What are you working on?
Oh, so much. We've got a lot going on. One thing that I'm really, really excited about is the Women in Cannabis study. It's a mixed methods research project founded by Jennifer Wetzel of Lady Jane Branding, a fantastic, dynamic force in this space. And it's a really interesting research project. They actually surveyed almost 1,700 women working in cannabis from across the vertical, from across the country, on everything from, why they're in the industry, where do they work, do they consume, what are their barriers to success, their visions of success. It's really fascinating stuff. And the final report, which is over 200 pages, is coming out next week, actually. And so we're really, really excited about that. I'm a partner in the project and have been assisting Jennifer, getting everything together, writing a lot, contributing to the report. And we're really excited to get it out there. It's going to be free to download. So you can sign up at womenincannabis.study for a link the day that it's out. And we think it's going to be very, very thought-provoking and eye-opening. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with the community for the rest of 2022 and drumming up support for version 2.0, which we'll be getting started on soon. So that's really exciting. And I'm also looking forward to spending more time in emerging markets this year. I'm actually going to be launching a content agency, which is really fun, called Dank Words, coming soon, and just trying to assist. Try to assist emerging markets, with their content strategies. As you know, marketing is so tough in this space. And so, ways to be compliant and engage with people, whether that's with SEO or, interesting sort of content strategies, event strategies, for example. I'm always pushing events as a great way to advertise. So just doing a lot of that. And of course, assisting Boveda, the makers of the original terpene shield, with their marketing copy. Shout out to Boveda and Save the Terps. I've got a lot going on.
Well, you stay busy. I did put your LinkedIn up on here, and also I'll throw it up one more time, the Women in Cannabis study as well. Feel free to check it out directly there as well. We'll talk more about that. Maybe we can also send that in Event High's newsletter a few times as it starts to lead up. So we'll chat more about
That would be awesome.
We also have Josh joining. Josh, hello. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, Josh. Good to see you in Miami.
And last but not least, before we move to the news articles, where can people read more about your work, or where can they find it? Yeah, where can they find it? Where should they go look it out?
So you can definitely check out my LinkedIn, my Instagram. I have a link in bio. You can go to RachelleGordon.net, although it's very old website. I'm actually reworking my website right now. I also have a muck rack, which I forgot to share the link with you. But if you Google Rachelle Gordon writing, you'll find me. But yeah, check out my work in Cannabis and Tech Today, on the Boveda site, in Skunk Magazine, on Beard Bros. But mostly just if you look at my muck rack or LinkedIn, it's all over the place.
Perfect. Good. No, you stay busy. You contribute with a lot of great brands. That's awesome. Okay, so let's move into the news component. Before we do, we'll say hello to, let's see, it's Roberto. Thanks for joining us, Roberto.
Hey.
All right. So the first article we're going to talk about is the first Las Cruces 420 Hemp and Cannabis Festival is planned for April, and here's what to expect. So the article touches in how adult recreational cannabis use and retail sales will be legal in New Mexico in April. And with that, there is a new community-based festival centered around this topic. The Las Cruces 420 Hemp and Cannabis Festival is going to be on April 20th. It's tentatively planned right right now at the Plaza de las Cruces. It's a grassroots effort by Travis Owens. And there's going to be about 40 booths, live music, entertainment. Public consumption is not allowed, and alcohol will not be allowed. But the holdup for him is it's been very challenging obtaining a special event permit and insurance. So hopefully he's able to get that figured out. It looks like an overall great event. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this? This is great to see an event happening so quickly as they start to get this up. But what are your thoughts on the whole, maybe even his whole experience?
It's unfortunate because it's not unique in that, especially in emerging markets, there still needs to be a lot of education there.
Yes.
And so the service providers who would maybe help him obtain the insurance might not realize actually that they could help him because there actually are ways to do that. And so I would hope that, he's not alone, and hope that he would be able to maybe connect with other people. I know that the Lucky Leaf Expo actually is happening, I think, like right now in Albuquerque or this weekend. And
Right.
so if they were able to do an event, certainly he should be able to as well. So I would encourage him to reach out to other people, other event organizers in his state, and see if they have any thoughts. But really, it comes back to the education. These markets, that's what it's going to take for a lot of different service providers to be able to help this industry grow, but they might not have experience with it yet.
That's a good point. Yeah, because it says he's like, there's no alcohol, there's no consumption. I'm like, well, then where's the issue?
Yeah, you should.
Definitely
It's
educational.
not a licensed event. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So the next article is Michigan's first cannabis consumption lounge is to open in Hazel Park. So Hazel Park is set to launch the first cannabis consumption lounge in Michigan. It's by a Troy-based cannabis company, Trucenta, which operates a retail cannabis dispensary with locations in Hazel Park and Battle Creek. They submitted an application in January to open a consumption lounge called Hot Box Social. And the thing is, too, they're still waiting for approval as well. There's other businesses who also express interest in opening consumption lounges in Ann Arbor, Kalamazoo, and Kalkaska, but they're not as far along. This venue has it already decked out with sofas, plush chairs, tables, and bar seating. They are holding cannabis events that don't involve consumption right now. So if anybody's interested, check them out for other events. But I'm excited. I'm trying to follow this lounge updates through states. I think there's about 10 states that are talking about cannabis consumption lounges. Do you have any experience with the Michigan market with cannabis lounges, or anything with that?
Not so much in Michigan. I'm not as familiar with that market, but I know that they're very, very, very excited about it. And I think it'll be once one opens, I think the floodgates will sort of open for others. And it sounds like this lounge is pretty close, but that's always how it is. It's the city dragging their feet. I know, because Denver had consumption for a bit, and then it was kind of a gray area, and it's not like they're setting it up for success because they make it so difficult to find a place, with all the different restrictions on, okay, it needs to be so far away from a school and, this and that. So, but it sounds like they're really close. And I think that by the middle to the end of this year, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of lounges in different markets pop up. And it's something that I'm really, really excited about because people at this point in time don't really have a place to go to gather to consume cannabis. We have plenty of places to go to consume alcohol. And I think as more people also embrace an alcohol-free lifestyle, which, as we both know, is becoming far more popular, I think it'll be able to bring people out of the bar and into the consumption lounge. That's what I'm really excited about.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I find it interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of not challenges, but a lot of ways people are going to have to get creative with the lounges because every state too, some of them are creating these weird restrictions. So, but that's normal. We're kind of used to that. We're always pivoting. So whoever does launch the first one there in Michigan, though, yeah, it's going to be a great start for everyone else.
Absolutely.
So quick shout out Tony has an announcement. I'm going to just throw it up really quick. There is an event happening in Chicago. Anyone that's tuning in on March 2nd, he put the link in the chat. So go check that out. And the reason I'm plugging it is I'm actually going to be speaking at it. So throw that really quick. I'll be speaking there. It's Tony P's networking event next Wednesday in Chicago. Now,
Yeah,
next.
congrats, girl.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited. I haven't been to Chicago, so this will be fun to experience it as a whole from the cannabis perspective and just to be a tourist for a day or two.
For sure.
Yeah. Last article is, so what's happened to Amsterdam's cannabis coffee shops during COVID? We've all heard of it. Many of you have probably been to Amsterdam for the infamous red light district, but lately it's been mostly deserted. The Dutch capital remains a ghost town. Even though the Dutch coffee shops never completely closed during the pandemic, they actually were classified as an essential business, unlike restaurants, cafes, and nightclubs. But that really wasn't in benefit to cannabis cafes because majority of their business comes from tourists, especially international tourists. So they have definitely been hurting, even though they've been technically been able to stay open. Over half of the capital's 167 coffee shops are in the center and heavily reliant on tourism, says Jokum of the Coffee Shop Owners Association. They also went into detail of, I guess initially they did close it for just a short time when the lockdown began, but then they reopened very quickly. As of right now, it says there's still strict rules though. All customers must show a vaccination pass in the form of a QR code on their phones to buy cannabis in a coffee shop. They must maintain a 1.5 meter distance while inside and wear masks while ordering. And coffee shops must stop serving at 10 p.m., but they are allowed to stay open until midnight for takeout. So I think that's an interesting component. There is the takeout component now where they can go to these coffee shops and just order to go, which is great. But yeah, have you ever been to the coffee shop in Amsterdam? What was that experience like? Yeah, I've never been, so.
Yeah, actually, I was an au pair in the Netherlands. I took a year off from college and I was there for 8 months in a little village a little bit north of Amsterdam. So I spent most of my weekends in Amsterdam, chilling, going to different coffee shops, just, meeting people. And they've been talking about limiting the tourist access for a long time. And I just don't really see that happening because, to your point, like they are so reliant on that income. And what I realized when I was there was that a lot of Dutch people actually don't consume cannabis, and they certainly don't go to the coffee shops. Not saying that they don't, but it was leaning far more toward tourists than it was actual Dutch nationals. So I think that it would really, really kind of destroy what they have if they don't have tourists. And I think that the businesses would be in a lot of trouble. And while I understand that they want to curb issues with overcrowding, the coffee shops aren't the only thing bringing people to Amsterdam. People forget that. It's a beautiful country with a lot of rich history and art and culture. And not every single person who's going there is just going to a coffee shop, although it's certainly a benefit. So I just don't see that happening. I know that they're limiting the amount of new coffee shops or like new licenses or whatever that they'll give out, but I don't foresee it really going much further than that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, too, especially after what has happened the past few years with the pandemic, like most cities and states and countries, I think, are going to rely on the tourism component to help bring back the economy. There's so many avenues we need increased revenue into all these cities and states and whatnot. So I think you're right. I think, they're talking about it, but they can find other ways to, lessen that congestion is if that's really their concern.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They, it's clear, they need the people.
Yeah, exactly.
We all do.
Nikki said she loves this. Hi, Nikki. Thanks for tuning in.
Love you, Nikki. Love you, my sister.
Now that brings us to the end of our articles this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, how any final words? And I'm going to put your connections back on the screen. But any final words before we let you go?
Well, I just want to say again, thank you so much, Adelia, for having me on. It was a blast. I'm really stoked for you and what you're doing. I think this show is really fun. Eventhi is doing so many cool things. I can't wait to be involved with more events in the future. And yeah, definitely check out the Women in Cannabis study coming out soon. And make sure to, follow me on Instagram at staygold612. Reach out on LinkedIn. If you ever have any questions, if you want to tell me your story, if you want advice on cannabis, literally anything that I can provide, I'm an open book. So don't be a stranger.
Thank you so much. And Jackson said, thank you for joining. Thank you for your time today. We do appreciate it. And with that being said, everyone, that is the end of the show. Quick 2 announcements. Next guest next week is Chef Derek Upton. He'll be joining us on the Cannabis Events Talk Show. And then our highlight event of the week is the Ganja Freedom Fest. The Ganja Freedom Fest is New Mexico's annual cannabis freedom celebration in Western New Mexico. This is an outdoor camping family event that will have food, vendors, cannabis producers, artists, wellness therapists, and music for the 420 holidays. This is at the Mujeres Valley Campground. They are a 20-acre campground of forest and mountain exploration. This is located between the Juni Pueblo and Akumi Pueblo and Fence Lake. The campground is reclaimed and operated by Indigenous and BIPOC activists and business owners, Assad and Ishal Mooney. For those that are interested in learning more, check it out on Eventhi. And with that being said, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay high.